Samak Gimel Amud Aleph. Haomer harayalai b'machavat lo yavi b'marcheshes b'marchevesh lo yavi b'machavat. So there's different types of voluntary korban minchas. There's 5 of them, and 2 of them is a marcheshet and a machavat. As we'll see, a machavat is like on a shallow pan, and a marcheshet is like a little bit of a deeper pan. So the marcheshet, which is a deeper pan, comes out with like, it's still not chametz, but it comes out with like a little bit of like a loaf, a little bit of like a thicker loaf. And the one that's on a frying pan is going to come out very thin and hard. Those are the 2 differences. Says if somebody says that I'm making a korban mincha on a machavat, lo yavi b'marcheshet, he needs to bring the one that's nice and thin or really thick and hard, and not the one that's in marcheshet. B'marcheshet lo yavi b'machavat. If he says I'm going to bring a marcheshet, he's going to bring a mincha b'marcheshet, so he needs to bring the one that's b'marcheshet, which is a little bit more of like, again, like a loaf, and not the one that's b'machavat. Welcome back. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
I heard we have we're learning Eloi Nishmas. What's the name?
Miriam Basdov.
Miriam Basdov. Neshama Shav and Aliyah.
Simchas.
Ma bein machavat and marcheshet. So what's the difference between the machavat and marcheshet? Again, these 2 types of voluntary mincha that if you say you're going to bring one, you have to bring that one and not the other one. Samach Gimel Amud Aleph. Says the Gemara, marcheshet yesh lakisa, machavat ein lakisa de Rabbi Yosef Gli. So there's 2 opinions. First opinion is Rabbi Yosef Gli says it's very simple. The difference between these 2 types of thing is basically, again, they're both going to agree that it's the type of kli you're cooking it in, the type of kli that you're baking it in. So Rabbi Yosef says the difference in the kli is that marcheshet has a cover and the machavat doesn't have a cover. Okay, that's one thing. Dear Rabbi Yosef Gli, and according to him, it's not necessarily going to come out that one's going to be thicker or thinner. It's just how you make it. You make one with you bake one basically in a pot or something, or in a utensil with a cover. The marcheshet and the machavat you bake without a cover. Therefore, if you say I'm going to bring a marcheshet, you have to bake it in one that has a cover. And if you say you're going to bring a machavat, you have to bake it in something that has no cover. Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel, it's not so simple. It's just not a matter. It's not a matter of the same utensil and whether it has a cover or not. The actual utensil is very different. Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel, marcheshet amuka u'maser rokshin. A marcheshet is like a deep pan. And therefore, the product, that which you make, the bread, or we're not going to call it bread because it's not chametz, but that which you make, the mincha that you make is going to be rochshin. It's going to, just literally, I think the way that he explains it there is it's going to quiver, which, if that literally means it's going to creep, and it's going to move. We'll see what that means in a second. And the machavat is safa or maser kashin. The machavat is much more shallow, and therefore comes out hard. So basically the way that we learn, based on Rishonim, based on Rashi, is that again, according to this opinion, the marcheshet is going to be, imagine like a little bit more of like a pot type, which is going to have more of a inside. Therefore, when you put in the oil and the flour and a little bit of water, so since it's a deep pan, the fire doesn't burn all the oil, which therefore leaves the loaf a little bit more soft, a little bit more spongy, as he says. Again, it's still seemingly not chametz, but it's soft and spongy, and therefore when you place your finger on the loaf, which is filled with oil, what do you get? You get the oil creeping all over the place. That's what it's referring to as...
it's moist.
It's moist, basically. That's what it's referring to as rochshin. The oil, when you press your finger, you can basically, like, you know, like when you, sometimes you go to a restaurant and like you have the oil all over. So it's like you press the thing and like the oil starts creeping out. But when you have a shallow pan, the machavat, which is the shallow like a frying pan, and you put the oil and the flour and the water on there, what happens to the oil? It quickly disappears, it gets hard, and therefore you end up with a very hard mincha. It's much more crispy. It's much more like matzah, even though, again, the other one is officially not chametz either. So that's the difference between a marcheshet and a machavat. So if you say I'm going to bring a marcheshet, you can't bring the hard one. You can't bring the one that you fry in a frying pan. And if you say you're going to bring a machavat, then you're not yotze if you bring the marcheshet, which is a soft and spongy one. According to Rabbi Yosef Glili again in the Mishnah, it doesn't necessarily sound that it makes a difference in terms of what the byproduct is or what the product is at the end. It just matters whether you cook it or bake it in an open cover or in a covered one. What do you say?
You're not yotze, don't do it.
Well, you might not even be yotze.
That's also good.
It says, lo yavi. You may be yotze, you may not be yotze.
You are yotze, according to kind of machas and marcheshet, at least similar enough that maybe it is the same.
Right, and it says lo yavi, whether yotze b'diavad, right. Zog the Gemara, my taima, to Rabbi Yossi. So what's the reason of Rabbi Yossi? So let's talk about Rabbi Yossi, who says it has to do with covered versus not covered. I mean, where's it coming from? It seems like it's coming out of nowhere. Says the Gemara, Eli marcheshes ta asya archushe halev kidotziv rachash libi davar tov. He says that the Gemara suggests that marcheshes, which he says again has a cover, is because the word marcheshet is like archushe halev, the stirrings of the heart. What are the stirrings of the heart? Rachash libi davar tov. The stirrings of the heart are inner. So just like the stirrings of the heart are inner, so too what? So too, the marcheshet is something that's inner, something that's closed. That's what Rashi says, right? Ta'asya archushe halev shu davar mechuse, ficha maseh mechusin. U'machavat, the word machavat is ta'asya, what's it from? Amchu be'apeh, the utterings of the mouth. What are the utterings of the mouth? Those are open. Those are outside. Emit sounds. So therefore, when the Torah uses the word marcheshes, he assumes that what it means is marcheshet is like the stirrings of the lave. Therefore, marcheshes by definition means something that's going to be covered. And machavat is going to remind me of amchu be'apeh, the utterings of the mouth, which by definition means that it's going to be open. That's how he learns. Says the Gemara, Ema epcha. It's very nice pshat. It's a beautiful drasha. But he can also have learned the opposite. Because we know that the word marcheshes doesn't just mean archushe halev, the stirrings of the heart, which is internal. It could also mean the other else. Or let's just start with machavat. It starts with machavat. Machavat doesn't just mean the utterings of the peh, which is external, therefore uncovered. It could also mean machavat to isya amchubue halev. The word machavat can also mean the amchubue, which means secrets of the heart. I have a pasuk which seems to imply that machavat is the secrets of the heart, which is internal. Therefore, machavat should be covered and not open. And marcheshet, which you said by definition is well, marcheshet is covered because it's the stirrings of the heart. Marcheshet could also be ta'ase archushe kidamri inchi have a marchshin sivtoseh. Marchushe can also mean the moving of the lips, which could be external. Therefore, how did you decide that I'm going to use that definition of marcheshet versus this definition of marcheshet, that definition of machavat versus this definition of machavat? Says Gemara Ela Gemara Gemira La. It must be that according to Rabbi Yossi, it's a tradition that he had that when he said I'm going to bring a machavat, by definition, it means I'm to bring a mincha that does not have a kisoy, that was cooked that was baked in a utensil that is not covered. And if you say you're going to bring a marcheshet, it must be something that was baked in a utensil that was covered. So that's the source. If I ask you what's the source for Rabbi Yossi, Gemara Gemira La.
Covered specifically, not depth.
It sounds like nothing to do with depth, just covered. It doesn't sound like he's. It doesn't sound like he's.
We've been arguing. No?
What?
Haven't we been talking about the depth the whole time?
So again, it sounds like according to him, unless you want to learn that he's adding to Rabbi Chanina and saying not only does it have to be depth, it doesn't sound like that from our Mishnah. It sounds like it's him, it's just a din and covered or not. Unless you want to argue again that it's covered and in depth. One can argue, but that's just pashut pshat. So that it's either or. According to Rabbi Chanina, it has to do with the depth. The marcheshet is very deep, therefore it comes out much more soft. And a machavat is like a frying pan, which is much more shallow, therefore it's going to come out much harder. Says how do you know that? Because it says in the pasuk in Vayikra, "V'chol manchash minchasher te'afeh b'tanor, v'chol naaseh b'marcheshet." Therefore, what? B'marcheshet, you make it in a marcheshet. If you make it in a marcheshet, you can only make it in a marcheshet if the marcheshet has a cavity to make it in, like a pot. Machavat safa. A machavat is very shallow, dichsiv, because what did it say in the pasuk? Ve'al machavat. You make it on the machavat. It sounds like you're like making it on the grill, on the frying pan. Therefore, it's a diuk in the psukim to show that one is shallow and one is deep. So now we have another thing. Within this opinion of Rabbi Chanina, that one is deep and one is not, and you're learning it from the pasuk, from the diuk in the pasuk. Bimar chesed, by definition, means it has a halal. Ala machava means by definition you're putting it on, there is no halal. So Beit Shammai says something very interesting. Beit Shammai omrim. So now I said again, in the Mishnah I said, Harei alai bimachavat. Harei alai bimar chesed just means a harei alai mincha that was made bimachavat, with a machavat, which by definition is a frying pan. Harei alai bimar chesed means harei alai mincha that was made with a marcheshet. Now the problem becomes, what happens if you say harei alai marcheshes? So what's the question? Harei alai marcheshes yehi munach sheyavo Eliyahu. Beit Shammai says that when I say harei alai marcheshes, not bimarcheshes or bimachavat, harei alai marcheshes, harei alai machavat. Well, now we have a little bit of a problem, because now I don't know. Are you saying that you're going to give a mincha that was made in a marcheshet, just for example, to the Beis HaMikdash? Or are you claiming that you're going to donate the actual marcheshet, the kli, the utensil, to the Beis HaMikdash? Says Beit Shammai, I don't know what you mean. Therefore, yehimunach hachiyav Eliyahu. What does that mean? We have to wait till Eliyahu comes for what? Not to tell me your intention. You could just tell me what your intention is, seemingly. Elio will come and Dan will say that when somebody says Harei Alai Marcheshet, do we treat it as if he's donating the actual kli to the Beis HaMikdash, or do we assume that he's donating the mincha to the Beis HaMikdash that was made in that kli? That's what Beit Shammai says. The Gemara just points, right? The Gemara makes this point. This is like parenthetically from the Brisa, because we're going to continue in the Brisa in a second. Once in a while, we'll quote a Brisa like Tana Rabbanan, and then in the middle, the Gemara will interject, give its analysis, and then go back to the Brisa. So we'll see in a second, Beis Halo Omrim, that's back in the Brisa. This is the Gemara interjecting. The Gemara says, Misaf galei I al shum kli nikru, o al shum ma'asein. Are we referring it again because of the final product, or are we referring to the kli? Therefore, when I say again that I'm going to bring marcheshet, am I talking about that I'm bringing the final product that was made in the marcheshet? Again, if I say Harei Alai bim marcheshet, nothing to talk about. For sure, I'm talking about the final product, the mincha. But if I say Harei Alai marcheshet, am I talking about the final product, or am I talking about the kli? We don't know. Therefore, you have to wait until Elio comes.
I don't want to preempt Eliyahu, but it seems never do we bring, you don't bring the, is he bringing the shakting knife, or is he bringing the korban?
Well, again, Harei Alai korban, you're bringing the korban over here because of the wording. And again, it's dafka within, the point is that it's dafka within Rabbi Chanina, who's saying that the whole limud of what a marcheshet is based on a diuk in the words of bim marcheshet versus al marcheshet. Therefore, if you're going to be so medayik in the words of the psukim, which we are all the time, but if you're going to be so medayik in the words of the psukim to tell me that I know exactly what it is, based on the fact that it says bi versus al, bi must mean deep and al must mean shallow. Therefore, okay, so now if I don't say the exact word when I'm actually giving my korban, my neder, then we're going to not know what to do. And then you're all right. But if you like to preempt Elio, you can take it up with him. Beis Hillel Omrim, Beis Hillel says, Kli haya b'mikdash, u'marcheshet shema, v'dome kemin kolbos amok. If you look at the art scroll, it says there was a kli that was called a marcheshet, and it looked like deep tongs. It looks like a little bit of like a Y. If you have the art scroll on the bottom, it's not the picture that Rashi brings over here. If you're sitting next to somebody with an art scroll, and it has a Y, does he also have it? He probably has it there also, no?
Looks like a slingshot.
Yeah, it looks like a slingshot a little bit, and it looks like you'd make whatever. It's like not like tongs. It's like you look at it. It has everybody has an article next to them. Okay, Baruch Hashem. So the Gemara says uchshebatzek munach betocho. When the dough is inside of it, dome kimin tapuche abratim. It looks like apples from bratim. Unfortunately, I don't know what those look like either. Ukimin belute avanim, and like acorns from Yavin, which you don't know what that is either. Ve'omer. And also, so first of all, he doesn't seem to be arguing Beis Hillel. Right away, he sounds like he's saying, Kli haya b'mikdash u'marcheshet shema. Ve'omer v'chol nase b'marcheshes v'al machavat. Al ma'ashum ha'kelim nikru v'lo ashum ma'aseim. So it seems like Beis Hillel is clearly saying, I don't have a chiluk. I'm not b'safek, whether it has to do with the kli or whether we call it al ma'aseim. And it sounds like Beis Hillel is clearly saying that what? That it's clear that if you say ha'omer harei alai marcheshes, according to him, you have to definitely go ahead and you have to bring the marcheshes, because he says what the pasuk says bim marcheshet and al machavat. So what's it talking about? If you say al machavat, when the pasuk says again, Beis Hillel makes a lot of sense, which is how we paskin, right? What does it say? Any mincha that you bake in a tanor, v'chol naaseh bim marcheshes. And anything you make in a marcheshes. That's clearly talking about what? That's the name of the utensil. What do you mean you're not sure if the marcheshet is the name of the utensil or it's the name of the actual mincha that you bring? It's the utensil. V'al machavat. And anything you make on a machavat, la kohen. It also says it's clear, read the psukim. It's clear that we're talking about the name of the keli. Therefore, if you say harei alai marcheshet, you're clearly saying, even not so, you don't need aliyah. Harei alai marcheshet, you clearly have to give the kli. Harei alai machavat, you clearly have to give the kli. You have to give the kli. So you have to give the kli. If you say harei alai bimachavat, or harei alai al machavat, harei alai bimarcheshet, then you give the korban mincha. So make sure you use the right words when you give the mincha.
I just took it earlier in the Gemara. The Gemara said that it was talking. It said if a person says harei alai minchas marcheshes, and it was saying like it's odd that you could be able to get away with it saying marcheshes without saying minchas marcheshes. If you say harei alai, I think sola is more obvious, like delicious means flour. But if you say marcheshes, maybe it's the name of a kli. Like way back in the beginning of the sechta.
That I don't remember.
They were not like mitzayin that Gemara over there.
Right. I don't see Rashi quotes it either. Okay. Zok the Gemara, Zok the Mishnah. Harei alai bitanor. So now you say harei alai bitanor. Again, if I would say harei alai tanor, good luck. You're going to bring an oven to the Beis HaMikdash. Okay, not so easy to transport ovens, but when there's a will, there's a way. Harei alai bitanor.
weren't that big, the tanur.
Right, but they were still, the actual tanur, as we'll see, there were different types of tanurs. Tanur was like a teepee type thing, looked like a teepee, and you'd put the food in and you can cook it in the teepee, or somehow they would cook it also on the top of the teepee, like where the smoke was coming. Then you'd have something a little bit smaller, which was called a kupach, which was like a mini tanur. So let's see. Harei alai bit tanur. I take upon myself to bring a mincha that was baked in a tanur. Lo yavi ma'afeh. Again, the pasuk says v'chi takriv korban mincha ma'afeh tanur. That was baked in a tanur. We're going to see that there's different types of things that were baked in a tanur. But right now, if you just say ma'afeh tanur, and the end of the pasuk says soled chalot matzot bulot b'shemen or kekei matzot mishuchim b'shemen. That's the pasuk we're going to concentrate on the rest of the day. So let's just get it clear. V'chi takriv korban mincha ma'afeh tanur. If you go ahead and you bring the korban that was baked in the oven, what kind of korban is that? Soled chalot matzot bulot b'shemen. Either chalot, matzot bulot b'shemen, which we know again, those are going to be the ones that are going to be a little bit thicker. And those are going to be what? This is not a machava versus a marchesha. Those are just chalot, matzot, which are below b'shemen. They're mixed with shemen and then they're baked. Urikikei matzot mishuchim b'shemen. Those are the wafers that are first baked and then they have oil smeared on top of them. So we're going to discuss, when you have a mafet tanur, we're going to discuss in just a minute, do you have to bring the chalot? Do you have to bring the wafers? Do you bring the combination of the two? But before we even get there, we're talking about when I say harei alai bit tanur, so the question is, can I bring whatever I'm bringing? Whether it's the wafers or the actual chalot, which are not real chalas, do they have to be baked in a tanur or can they be baked in something else? That's the first question in the Mishnah. Forget about what the object is. Harei alai bit tanur lo yavi ma'afeh kupach. You can't bring a wafer or a chalot that were baked in a kupach, which Rashi said is like a small tanur, which has room for only one pot, as opposed to a big tanur, a big oven, which has room for more than one pot. Or v'lo ma'afeh re'afim. You can't have, this was like Rashi explains that they would bake on earthenware that was heated in an oven. Right? Imagine if you had like earthenware, you heat it up in the oven, then you take it out and you bake on that. So you can't bake on that. Umafeh yorot arvim, or the cauldrons of the aravim, which again, what would they do? They would heat them. Sounds like they were pots, and they would heat the pots similar to the earthenware, and then they would bake on them. What? No, this is where they would actually heat up like a mini oven inside of another oven, take out the oven, and then bake in the second oven, not in the original oven. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Ratza Mevi Ma'afeh Kupach. Rabbi Yehuda says you can cook it in a Ma'afeh Kupach. And again, they're arguing whether Ma'afeh Tanur includes this smaller oven or not. But that's one machlokas. Tanakama says when you say Harei alai b'tanur, you need to bring mamish baked in a regular tanur. Rabbi Yehuda says you could bring it even if it was baked in the Ma'aseh Kupach. Now, what if you say Harei alai minchas ma'afa? Which again is what the pasuk says, a minchas ma'afa. Let's assume you bake it in a tanur, so everybody agrees that it's fine. But if you say Harei alai minchas ma'afa, what are you bringing? The pasuk then says what? There's two types of minchas ma'afas. There's the chalot and there's the wafers. So which one do you bring? Says the Gemara, Ratza Mevi, Rabbi Yehuda says, Ratza Mevi Mafa Kupa. Harei alai minchas ma'afa. Lo yavi mechza chalas u'mechza rekik. And this is still Rabbi Yehuda, as we'll see. You can't bring half and half. You could either bring, you have a choice, because you didn't say I'm going to bring one of the specific ones. You could either bring 10 chalos or 10 matzahs. And Rabbi Shimon Matir b'mibnei shu korban echad. Shimon says it's one korban. It's the same pasuk. Read the words. It says ma'afeh tanur and then gives two examples. You want to bring 7 of these and 3 of these, 5 of these and 5 of these. Whatever you want to do, shalom al Yisrael. So they're arguing whether, again, everybody agrees that if you bake it in tanur, for sure it's fine. There's one machlokas, what kind of tanur. And the second machlokas over here, again, which is the one that we're going to concentrate on, is when you say I'm going to bring ma'afeh tanur, does that specifically mean one of the two types, or can you mix and match? Says the Gemara. Tanur Banan. Ma'afeh tanur, v'lo ma'afeh kupach, v'lo ma'afeh rafa'im, v'lo ma'afeh yuros harviyim. That's the Tanakama. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, tanur shnei pamim lahachshir ma'afeh kupach. It says tanur twice. There's 2 psukim. It says ma'afeh tanur, and it says v'chol mincha asher ta'afeh bit tanur. It says it twice to say shnei pamim, that one of them can be done in a kupach. One tanur says that when it says tanur, it needs to be done in a real tanur. The other tanur says when it says tanur, it can really be done in a smaller tanur. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Rabbi Shimon, who said that it cannot be done in a smaller tanur, he would say that tanur shnei pamim teaching me something else. Echad shetei afiyasam bit tanur, ve'echad sheyagdesham bit tanur. The reason it says it twice is A, wants to tell you have to bake it in a tanur, And the second time to tell you that when you bake it in tanor, that's when it becomes hekdesh. That's when it becomes kodesh, when you bake the bread in tanor. Says Gemara, Mi Isai Rabbi Shimon Haisvar. Does Rabbi Shimon really hold to this? V'hatanan, Rabbi Shimon Omer La'olam Aviregel Lomar Shtei Lechem V'lechem Apanim Kisheros Ba'azaru Kisheros Bebeis Pagi. But he clearly says that when you bake it outside of the azara, it's also kosher. How can it be? If you bake it outside the azara, what happens? If it becomes kodesh when you bake it, by definition, when you bake it outside the azara at the same exact time, you're parceling it through yotzei, that you took it out. Says Gemara Maravi, you're right. You're right. You can bake it outside because when you put it into the oven, it doesn't become hekdesh. It only becomes hekdesh seemingly later, like lechem apanim, like we said, when you put it onto the shulchan. So what does it mean that you have to have hekdesh betanor? It means that at the time that you go ahead and you start the korban, when you go ahead and you're mekadesh the soles, you already have to say l'shem yichu kucha brichu amena la fosa betanor ani makdisha. You have to start setting aside the solid all the way from the beginning and say, ultimately, I'm going to be makdish it in a tanor. That's the first part. B'nei Nachanami, it doesn't become kadosh until later. Harei alai minchas ma'afeh lo yavi mechsa. This is the machlokes now between Beis Hillel and Beit Shammai, between Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says, Harei alai minchas ma'afeh. You have to bring 10 of one or 10 of the other. And if you say Harei alai minchas ma'afeh, Rabbi Shimon says you could bring 5 and 5. Tanu Rabbanan v'chitakriv kishetakriv lasot davar rishos. So the first thing, v'chitakriv, means that when you bring it, it is voluntary. It's telling you that this whole thing of minchas ma'afeh is a voluntary korban. Korban mincha. Amar Yehuda minayin le'omer Harei alai minchas ma'afeh shelo yavi mechsa chalos and mechsa rekikin. When it says v'chitakriv korban mincha, so v'chitakriv teaches me that this whole minchas ma'afeh is one of the, or two of the 5 voluntary minchas. So how do you know? Why does Rabbi Yehuda assume that you can bring only? Why does Rabbi Yehuda assume that you cannot bring 5 and 5? Because it says korban mincha, harei alai, right? Korban mincha. Rabbi Yehuda minayin l'omer harei alai minchas ma'afeh shelo yavi mechsa chalos and mechsa rekikin. Talmud l'omer korban mincha. Korban echad amarti lecha v'lo shnayim v'shosha korbanos. Because what does it say? V'chi takriv korban mincha. When you bring a korban mincha singular, ma'afeh tanor, that was baked in a tanor, soled chalot matzot b'lo b'shemen, urikikei matzot meshuchim b'shemen. He says, look at the beginning of the pasuk. It says in the singular, you bring a korban mincha. The pasuk then gives you a choice. You want to bring the wafers? Good. You want to bring chalot? Fine. But it's a korban mincha. It's one korban. It's not 2 korbanos. You don't combine them. You bring one or the other. 10 of this or 10 of that. Says Rabbi Shimon, Amar Rabbi Shimon, who holds you allowed to bring 5 and 5. Amar Rabbi Shimon, v'chinemar korban shnei pamim. It doesn't say the word korban 2 different times. It doesn't say v'chitakriv korban mincha ma'afeh tanor solech halo matzot b'lo b'shemen or korban rekike matzos. It says you have to bring a korban. I agree you have to bring 1 korban, but this korban can consist of 2 different things. You're going so far to say, well, it's 1 korban. Okay, I agree with you. Shkayach, it is 1 korban. But the pasuk then gives you the option of bringing one or the other. Why would you say either one or the other? Why can't it be a combination of the 2? Shnei b'mim v'alolo nemar korban echad. It's exactly my point. You're making my point for me. It says 1 korban and it gives you 2 examples, so you could bring 5 and 5. It says in Gemara, me'ata ratzalavi chalos mevi, rekikin mevi, mechsa chalos and mechsa rekikin mevi. So now the Gemara says something very interesting. According to Rabbi Shimon, again, according to Rabbi Yehuda, you have to bring either 10 of this or 10 of the other. Fine. How do you do kamitza on these korbanos? If you remember, some of the korbanos you do kamitza while there's still flour, and some korbanos you do them after you go ahead and you break them up. So these these 2 minchas, you have to do them after you break them up. So the Gemara says, what happens if you have 5 and 5? So what do? So you have to break them up, mix them together, put shemen together, and then do the kamitza of the 2 of them together. It says in Gemara, ubolalan v'komet mishnei. And if you have 5 and 5, you mix them up, you break them down into pieces, you do the kamitza together. V'im kamatz v'ala biyado me'echad al shneim yatsa. If you happen to go like this and put your hand in and you only pull up half, you only pull up the kamitza from one of the, or from 5 out of the 10. Let's say you mix the chalot and the wafers, and you break them all up together. But what if for whatever reason the mitzvah says that when you do the kamitza, you don't end up getting out of the chalas, and even though it's a combination, you only end up getting the wafers. It's not as mixed as it should be. You're still yotzei. At the end of the day, that's what you have to mix them together. Again, according to the reason it doesn't apply to Rabbi Yehuda, it's because he's saying you're only bringing 10 of one or 10 of the other, so you're just breaking all of them and doing the kamitza. Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda Omer. Now this is Rabbi Yossi's son. So Baruch Hashem, the son agrees with the father. He's going to say something else. So he says the same thing as his father. If you say Harei Alai Minchas Ma'afeh, you have to bring 10 of one or 10 of the other. You can't mix them. The only difference is he has a different pasuk. His father said that the diuk is in the pasuk that says V'chi takriv korban mincha. Singular, when you bring it, it has to be one, it has to be made out of one thing. It has to be either or, 10 of this or 10 of the other. What does his son say? His son brings different psukim. Tamalomer v'chol mincha asher tafeh b'tanor v'chol nase b'marcheshes v'al ma'chaval akwen amakriva solotia. Because when it talks about a mincha asher tafeh b'tanor, it says if you make a mincha that's baked in an oven, or v'chol naseh b'marcheshet, or al machavat, but it says the word v'chol, shkoyach, therefore what? Then it says v'chol mincha be'ula b'shemen v'chariva l'chol b'nei Aaron tiyah. There's a separate passage which we haven't quoted yet, which says a wet mincha, and there are some minchas that are dry, with no oil. But you see that the word v'chol in the second pasuk is what? Ma v'chol ha'omer lamata shnei min chaluk. In the second v'chol is definitely two separate things. One of them is a wet mincha, and one of them is a dry mincha. So just like in the second pasuk where the word v'chol is a wet mincha and a dry mincha, two totally separart things. Therefore, when it says harei alai mincha, when it says v'chol minchat asher tafeh b'tanur, what? Af v'chol ha'omer lamala shnei min chalukin. So too when it says the v'chol lamala, it's two separate things. What does this mean in English? Rashi. Av kol shnei minin hin klomar chalos urakikin amurin v'vayikor shnei minin ve'ei mistarfin. Just like it says the word v'chol when it's talking about a dry one versus a wet one, so therefore when it says v'chol ma'afei tanor, and then it goes ahead and it, even though it doesn't say the word v'chol in that pasuk, but when it says v'chol ma'afei tanor, it's basically telling you, don't confuse. Chol ma'afei tanor is it can't be mixed. It can't be two different types. V'chol, anytime it says the word v'chol, it means separate things. So v'chol ma'afei tanor, it needs to be either this or that. That's his diuk. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda Shaper come Rabbi Shimon. So now the Gemara says both on Rabbi Yehuda and on his son. Rabbi Shimon had a very nice point. You're telling me that it says what? That doesn't say korban twice. And Rabbi Shimon says, perfect, that's exactly my point. It says in the pasuk, V'chli takriv korban mincha ma'afeh tanor chalo matzo below bashemen urekike matzot. It says you bring one korban, and it gives you two choices. What's the problem? Says the Gemara, Amar lecha kevan dechsiv bashemen kiman dechsiv korban dami. It doesn't say the word korban twice, but it says the word bashemen twice. Therefore, he holds that v'chi takriv korban mincha ma'afeh tanor solech halo matzo below bashemen urekike matzot mechuchim bashemen. I don't like this diuk so much, my personal point, because bashemen is telling you that it has to be mixed with shemen, or it has to be covered with shemen. But he's saying the fact that it says bashemen twice when it didn't have to, it's separating the two. And it says bashemen to tell you that these are two separate things, and the two shall never meet each other. Rabbi Shimon says, "Iloksi bashemen havamina dafka machzos chalos umachzo rekikin aval chalos lechudai rekikin lechudai imalo." So Rabbi Shimon said something very interesting. He says, "I agree that it says the word shemen twice, but it teaches me something else." Rabbi Shimon goes to the other extreme. He says, if it didn't say shemen twice to break them up, you know what I would have thought? It said v'chita kriv korban mincha ma'afeh tanor. Then it tells you rekikin and chalos. What would you have thought? I would have thought the opposite extreme. I would have thought you need to bring half and half. You're telling me you can't bring half and half. It needs to be 10 and 10. I would have said you have to bring half and half. It's telling you, bring a korban, right? If I go to you and I say, bring a korban, challah, rekikin. So the way he's learning it is challah or rekikin, one or the other, not both. The way that he's learning it, Rabbi Shimon, is challah, rekikin, this korban you're bringing has got to be both. Half and half. That's the machlokes. Says the Gemara, Kamash Malan, that again, according to him, Kamash Malan, Shemen is not teaching me that it needs to be either or. It separates them to say it can be either or it could be. So it comes out again. According to Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yehuda's son, if you say Harei alai minchas ma'afeh, you need to bring, you have a choice, because the pasuk definitely gives you a choice. That they can't argue with. Either 10 chalos or 10 wafers. According to Rabbi Shimon, if you say Harei alai ma'afeh tanor, you can either bring 10 chalos, I agree. They all agree that you can bring 10 chalos. They all agree you can bring 10 wafers. What Rabbi Shimon adds is that if you want, you can bring 5 and 5. That's what comes out. Now the last question we have to deal with before the parak is over is what's the nafkamina between the source that Rabbi Yehuda uses and the source that his son uses. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yosef Yehuda hainu avua, ike benayu di'i avad. And as Rashi explains, according to Rabbi Yehuda, who learns it from the pasuk that says korban echad. So it says, Rashi, let's just read this last Rashi. The Rabbi Yehuda di yalav taimami korban echad dievek sheros. It says korban echad, but dievek is sheros. It means that you have to bring a korban is echad. It gives you two choices, but it's saying that you have to really bring one of the two. But since they're in the same pasuk, b'dievek, if you bring half and half, you'll be yotzei. But according to the other opinion, his son, who says that v'chol splits them up, so what's the source of v'chol splitting them up? It's a pasuk that talks about two totally different types of mincha. a minchas chote and a minchas nedava. If the source is something that talks about two totally different minchas, and everybody agrees that I'm going to bring a minchas chote, if I bring a minchas chote and I bring a minchas nedava, or if I'm supposed to bring a minchas nedava and I bring a minchas chote, everybody agrees that that's going to ruin it. Therefore, Lamais, it also teaches me that if I go ahead and I bring the wrong one, if I bring 5 and 5 when I'm not supposed to, I'm not going to get any credit. That's what the Gemara says. The Rabbi Yossi di Yalef mi belula v'chareva ki echid di belula di minchas nedava v'chareva di minchas chote afilu di yav di mirvam psulos. Just like those two, if you mix them up, you're not going to be yotzei. So too over here, if you mix them up, you're not going to be yotzei. Hadron alach kol ha-menachos. Zak the Mishnah. Rabbi Yishmael Omer. Omer hayaba b'shabes mishalosh shayin. Uvechol mechamesh, v'chachamim romim echad Shabbos v'echad chol mishalosh hayaba. Rabbi Yishmael says that we know that on the 16th day of Nisan they needed to bring the Korban Omer. Now, if the 16th day of Nisan came out on Chol, you have to remember we have the second day of Yantiv, so by us it is what it is. The second day of Yantiv. In Eretz Yisrael it's Chol HaMoed. So on the 16th day of Nisan you would bring the Korban Omer on Pesach. So the question becomes, if it's Chol, which is a Chol HaMoed, so then what happens? If it's Chol, then you bring whatever you bring. If it's Shabbos, the question becomes, you need to change what you're bringing because of Shabbos. What does that mean? It means the given is you have to have an isaron of solas. You have to have an isaron of flour that comes. But there's different ways to get to an isaron of flour, just as an example, just to throw it out there. Oil. You can have pure olive oil, which means that you take 100 olives and you press them each once, and you get a pound of pure olive oil. Or you can take 50 olives and press them numerous times each, and also get olive oil. It may not be as pure, or it may even be as pure, but you have to, let's assume that it is as pure, but you have to work it. It's not exactly the same example, because by olive oil, I think only the first pressing. But you press them 20 times each, you'll get the same as pressing each one once, doing 20 different ones. So let's see what it means. So Omer hayabah b'Shabbos mishaloshan. On Shabbos, they would take 3 sayin worth of barley to get an isaron worth of flour. Ubachol chamesh. And on Chol, they would take chamesh. So again, what would they do here? They would go to the field, they would cut the barley, then they would winnow it, they would press it, they would put it through a sieve, and then they would sift it and everything, and then they would have the flour. So on Chol, they would use 5. What does that imply? That implies that out of the 5, they were basically going through them much quicker. They would cut it, they would beat it a little bit, they would put it and they would sift it. Whatever came through the first time, great. Everything else is garbage. We have more. We have 5 of them to get an isaron from. On Shabbos, they wouldn't have as much. They wouldn't want to cut as much, as we'll see, because every one that you cut is another malacha. So they wouldn't want to cut as much. So they would take the minimum necessary in order to get the same amount. And instead of having to cut more and then do less with each, but do more malachas, they would basically end up doing what? They would end up doing the same malacha, but they would do it numerous times with the same thing. So Rabbi Yishmael says, Omer hayabah b'Shabbos, there were 3 signs to make an isaron of flour, uvachol mechamesh. V'chamer echad Shabbos v'echad chol mishalosh hayabah. Chamim say no, on Shabbos and on Chol they only use 3 signs. Rabbi Chanina skana kohanim omer b'Shabbos hayu nixar b'yachid. Another difference is on Shabbos they would cut individually, uvamagal echad, with 1 sickle, uvekupa achas, with 1 basket, seemingly because you want to keep it more sneus, you want to keep it more quiet on Shabbos. What? I don't know about that, but maybe. Uvechol b'shlosha, I thought it's to keep it more quiet. Right, but you can still keep the cutting and the actual thing quiet. Uvechol b'shlosha b'shalosh kubas v'shalosh megalos, and on the chol you have 3 people, 3 sickle, 3 baskets. You always do the same Shabbos and Chol. Same thing he said in the first case. So Bishlam Rabbanan, says the Gemara. So the Chachamim make a lot of sense. We need to have an isaron. The given is you need an isaron of mufchar flour. You need to have an isaron of barley flour that is mufchar, let's call it pure barley flour. You need it. So they say what? They say you can get an isaron of pure barley flour from 3 solas. Therefore what? It makes sense that they're going to say, you need to have the pure barley flour. How do you do it? With 3 solas. Therefore, it doesn't matter if it's Shabbos, it doesn't matter if it's Chol. Clearly, the Torah is already docha Shabbos by letting you cut it and do whatever you do. So if you need to have pure barley flour, and it's going to take 3 solas just to have pure barley flour, you do 3 bein b'chol, bein b'Shabbos. El Rabbi Yishmael ma'ikasav. Rabbi Yishmael makes no sense, says the Gemara. Ikasavar isaron mufchar lo asi ela mechamesh afilu b'Shabbos nami. If he holds that you can't get this isaron of pure barley flour except if you use 5 solas, 5 sa of barley, then what? then you should have to use 5 on Shabbos also. And if you can get the pure isaron of barley flour by using only 3 sa of barley, so why on during the chola using 5 sa of barley? Says Gemara, Amar Rava, no. Very interesting. He says that without tircha, it comes from 5. What does that mean? You don't have to, Rashi says, linafot kokach. If you don't want to sift so much, you need 5. It means at the end of the day, the Chachamim say you need 3, assuming that you sift, let's say, for 5 minutes each time. 3 sa of barley will give you an isaron of flour. If you sift the barley, 3 sa of barley for 5 minutes, you'll get an isaron of flour. Do that during the week and do that on Shabbos. Comes on Rabbi Yishmael, says 1 second. You're going to get a certain amount of flour, but it depends how much you sift it. If I sift 3 sa of flour for an hour, I'll get an isaron of pure barley flour. If I sift 5 sa for 40 minutes, then I'll get an isaron of pure barley flour. So he says, on Shabbos, what do we do? On Bichol, Maisina Mechamesh. Bichol, we do less work, which is interesting, because I always thought on Shabbos you have less of a tircha, but we'll see why. Bichol, you do less work, you cut 5, you have to sift less, therefore you only have to sift for 40 minutes and you get your flour. Dehachi shvicha milsa, because it's better, it's easier work. B'Shabbos mutav sheyirbe b'melacha achas beharkadav al yirbe b'melachos harbe. This fascinating svara. He's saying, what's the option here? I need either 5 or 3. If I get 5, I'll have to sift less. It'll be much less work. If I do 3, I'll have to sift more. Says the Gemara, so on chol, you want to sift less? No problem. Cut a few more, cut 2 extra sa. Go ahead and do whatever you winnow it, and then sift it, sift for 40 minutes, shalom aisah, because we're assuming the cutting doesn't take so much time, the winnowing, whatever. Shabbos, now we have a choice. If you take 3 sa, and you sift it, it's going to be an hour. So we can either say sift for 40 minutes like during the week, but then you need to cut 2 extra sa of barley, or sift for another 20 minutes, and you'll end up getting the flour you want. He says better to sift for another 20 minutes, a little bit more of a tircha, is better than doing more malacha of cutting 2 more sa of barley in the field. Which makes a lot of sense. That's what Rabbi Yishmael says. But you're already sifting anyway. You need to sift regardless. You need to sift regardless. So if you're sifting anyway for 40 minutes, just sift for an hour and save yourself having to cut. Yes, you're cutting anyway, but every act of cutting is different. The sifting you're doing anyway. So the question is, just continue the sifting for another 20 minutes, or go ahead and cut and winnow and do all these other malachas that Rashi says. Look at Rashi. Look at Rashi. Look at Rashi. The end of the first wide line. Mutav sheyachal apam harbe shavas malacha achas kigon sheyiraket agimel son b'pamim harbe v'al yarbe b'malachos harbe sheyiksor v'yizreh. V'yivror, you have to do borer, you have to do winnowing, v'yitachin, you have to grind it, v'yiraket, you have to say and everything. So it's better to do 1 malacha of just sifting for another 20 minutes with the 3 sa. You need at least 3 sa, or else you won't get the isaron. Better to sift for an extra 20 minutes than have to do all these other malachas. During the week, we're not going to bother if you have to do all. We're not going to bother you, because it sounds like the Gemara. It's interesting. The Gemara is saying that on one, the Gemara is like whatever. I don't want to analyze it too much, but the Gemara sounds like on one hand sifting is more of a tircha. And on the other hand, it's saying that cutting is more of a tircha. Sifting is more of a tircha, which is why during the week we do the 5. It sounds like sifting is less of a tircha, and the cutting, it sounds like the cutting is less of a tircha. To actually cut it is less of a tircha than have to sift for another 20 minutes. Or else during the week we would just sift for another 20 minutes. So it sounds like we'd rather go ahead and cut 2 extra sa and winnow and do all that stuff than to have to sift for another 20 minutes. That's what the Gemara says. Amar Rabba. You have to sift through the options. Amar Rabba.
It also could be that earlier the malacha processing makes it worse.
I'm sort of cutting.
It could be. So finally, I just want to end. Amar Rabba, Rabbi Yishmael, Benosh Rabbi Yochanan ben Baruch, Amru Davar Echad. So this was all Rabbi Yishmael, who was talking about, again, better to limit the malachas and do a little bit more work on Shabbos in terms of the sifting than to do more malachas. This seems to be similar to the opinion of Rabbi Yishmael, Benosh Rabbi Yochanan ben Baruch, somebody else. By the Korban Pesach, the Tanya, Arbas HaShachalios B'Shabbos, same thing. If Erev Pesach is on Shabbos, you have to bring the Korban Pesach on Shabbos. But what else do you need to do? We also know that on Pesach you have to eat the Korban Pesach at night. You also have to burn the leftovers. So it says in Gemara, Arbas HaShachalios B'Shabbos, Mafshid HaPesach Ad HaChazah. Usually after you bring the Korban Pesach, you skin it until you skin the entire animal. Then you go ahead and you're going to cook some of it, and you're going to take out the amor and the insides. So the Gemara says you can actually get out the amor and the insides by only skinning up to the chazeh. up to the
Chest.
the breast, officially the breast. So the question is, should you still skin the entire animal, or just skin up to the breast, because then you can reach in, get the amorin, and then you did whatever you needed to do. So Tanakama says, since it's Shabbos, only go ahead and do the skinning up to the breast. You can do the entire thing. So it says the Gemara, so it seems like it's the same thing. He's saying you do the minimum you need to do, and you don't do more. So you do only the skinning up to the chazeh, and you don't do more. You only do the malachas that you need to do, and you don't do more. Therefore, over here, you're going to do the sifting for an extra 20 minutes so that you can stop yourself from doing extra malachos. Says the Gemara, Mimai. How do you know this? No, maybe over there, Rabbi Yishmael, maybe by the Omer, he says this because there's no bizayon kachim. Aval hasam de'ika bizayon kachim emalacha kirabanan svirale. Maybe over there by bizayon kachim, he would say what? It's a bizayon. Rabbi Yishmael, our Rabbi Yishmael, who says that over here it's better to sift it for another 20 minutes. So we assumed because it's better to do less malachas, he would agree that by the skinning, it's better to skin only up to the chazeh. The Gemara says no, maybe not. Maybe by the chazeh you have another problem. If you only skin up to the chazeh, yes, it's better to do less malachos, but you have a problem there because if you only skin up to the chazeh, it's going to look pretty weird. You're going to have an animal that for the rest of Shabbos is going to be sitting there until the night, and it's going to be looking like a nevela. It's going to be like half mufshad, half not. This is the Korban Pesach we're dealing with over here. So maybe even though over here he would say limit the malachos and do another 20 minutes of sifting, over there he would say like the chachamim that you should go ahead and you should be mufshad the entire thing. Okay, ran out of time in the first show, so we stopped here, and tomorrow Ezra Dieta will pick up and we'll see the other tzad and then continue with the Gemara here. Have a wonderful Shabbos, everyone.